So I'd love to hear from all of you because I know we all have one. Kathy's going to start. But are there any funny or hilarious or crazy staging stories that you have behind the scenes that you can share with our viewers today?
It was an occupied staging. They didn't do a lot of stuff that they said they were going to do. I think it was on 30th floor of a building. So the photographer was supposed to be there at 10 and he's in the shower at 9:30. The dog stuff is all over the place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I just threw it in the stairwell. And unfortunately, the door closed behind me and I'm in my sock feet and it's winter and I have to go down and I have to walk through the side door and do the walk of shame through the lobby in my socks in the snow. And he's in the shower. I don't even think he knew that this happened. And I had moved his clothes for some reason and he was freaking out. Where are my clothes? Where are my clothes? And it was just, that was a very stressful day. It's always stressful having sellers in the property, but it's particularly stressful when you're in a time crunch for the photographer to show up.
Oh, yeah.
And they're in the shower.
Yes. We actually had a gentleman once take a shower during his own open house. So the open house was there, the seller was around, and he took a shower during the public open house. I'm
a 2-hour shower.
Not sure what was going on. Actually, Ralph, I think you were there texting me that this was happening.
Yeah, it was a 2-hour shower. He just locked himself in the bathroom.
It was very bizarre. So we have shower stories as well, Kat. That's awesome. Ralph, do you have a behind the scenes staging story that you can think of?
Oh, for sure I do. Talking about stress about a photographer arriving, I will mention his first name, my client and a longtime friend from university, Ari. We were selling his property in Leslieville, and he had this massive treadmill, which we asked him to move before the photographer came in his basement so we could shoot an unobstructed basement and this massive cat tree. It was literally 6 feet tall. So of course, Kori gets there before the photographer, and Ari has not moved his treadmill. So Kori tries to fold up and move the treadmill on her own, and in the process throws her back out and is lying flat on her back, and calls me and says that the photographer is going to be there in about 40 minutes. What do we do? Because there was a tight deadline that we had to get to market for a whole bunch of reasons. So I drove all the way over there. I helped her. I found Kori on the ground. I picked her up. Yeah. And then I moved the treadmill successfully, but then I had to move the 6-foot tall cat tree. Now I am deathly allergic to cats. And so I had to sort of give this massive cat tree like a bear hug and literally carry it out the door outside and hide it between the two houses next door. Now I'm covered in cat hair. And of course, I'm literally breaking out in hives by the second. My whole body is got these spots appearing just everywhere, and I can't breathe. And there's cat hair just everywhere on me. And Kori can barely walk. And the photographer, literally right at this moment, walks in the front door and he's like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And I'm sweating. Kori's crying. It was a very interesting experience.
Very interesting.
So Ari, if you're listening, you owe me, brother.
And that property ended up getting featured on Property Brothers as well. And a whole bunch of places Toronto Life and all of this stuff.
It was that one really blew up.
Yeah, no one knows what happens behind the scenes, but I remember that day very clearly. Ian, talk to me. Tell me a behind the scenes staging story.
These clients I worked with more than once were notorious. They are the type that we talked about already, where you say, "Can you please do this and do this and do this? And here's your deadline and here's your schedule." Do a half-assed job, or they don't do it at all. The photographer was coming at, let's call it noon, the evening before we were packing up and leaving. And the homeowner said, "Don't worry, I'm going to clean that bathroom really thoroughly tonight, and it'll be good to go for you." I was going back at 8 a.m. the next day. I got there at 8 a.m. the next day. The bathroom had not been cleaned. And the client was in bed still in the primary bedroom.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. So cleaned the bathroom because I had to, because it was crunch time, and the cleaner had already been there for some reason in this particular property. Went through, zhuzhing, getting ready. But the client at noon is still in bed when the
No.
photographer shows up. Yeah. Like there was just zero consideration of like, when I ask you for something, I'm not just doing it because I think it's fun and cruel, right? Like I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of like the 2-hour shower, the person who
Yes.
decided to not do anything they said they were going to do and then stay in bed up until the second the photographer got
my
there.
gosh.
So we couldn't stage that room either
Oh my gosh.
until we just made the bed. That was all we could do.
I know Kathy and I have experienced a lot of nappers while we've been staging. Like just people in their home while Kathy's working around them, taking a nap on the couch, nap in their room. It's just the most awkward, uncomfortable, sleeping when we arrive. Like, what time do people get up? It's so weird to me. We're like up at like 5 a.m. and people are still in bed at 9 on the day we're supposed to stage. Bizarre. Well, I'll add one. I have so many of these and I know we could write a book on it. I think I'm going to think of the one that I was most mortified by. Well, there's many of those. But we were staging this beautiful, beautiful property in High Park. The sellers were lovely. Kathy, I think this was before your time with us at Fox Marin. They had this stunning, gorgeous loft space with very delicate stone counters in their washroom. And the seller specifically said to me, when your cleaners come in, do not use anything abrasive on these counters. They're like very sensitive to chemicals. It can, only use natural cleansers. Please, please, please. So I wrote to the cleaners. I'm like, don't use chemicals in this house. The stone stains very easily. And so, of course, the cleaners go in. And then 24 hours later, I get all these text messages from the seller. And the cleaner, oh my gosh, used CLR in the bathroom to clean and took the jug of CLR after using it and placed it down on the stone counter in the washroom that was the specific stone that this particular seller was worried about. And it left these circle marks that were the perfect shape of the CLR container, all like almost like rusted into the stone. And that was like the text message that I woke up to. I have never wanted to puke more. I was like, oh my gosh, we've ruined this person's bathroom. We got specific instructions. I had relayed the information and still this happened. And so, of course, we brought in everyone and their brother to try to buff out these stains and fix it and repair it. And I believe we just ended up replacing it, Ralph. If I'm recollecting the story properly, I think we just replaced it because we couldn't even buff it out. And obviously that was a cost to us, which we were happy to pay to make the problem go away. But it was just one of those instances that you just couldn't control despite all your efforts to protect the seller. And that was certainly mortifying. And I would never like to repeat that one again.
Yeah, that one reminds me of the stove that we pulled out.
Oh gosh, I know.
We lifted it up. We put it down. We were very cognizant of the floors. And then the guy who came to service the stove grabbed it and wriggled it and basically ground up the floor in the kitchen, which was pristine and was like 15 years old and didn't have a scratch on it.
Yes, I know exactly where.
Yeah.
I felt like we were children being scolded.
Yes.
Yeah. It was really unfortunate.
That's really bad. I think I also had, I've also had this stagers movers come in to replace a glass dining room table. And they wrapped it. They did everything you're supposed to do. Like they wrapped it, they taped it. It was like all ready to go. And then they lifted it from all four corners, 2 guys, and the seller's whole dining room table shattered into like 1,000 pieces on the floor right in front of me. I was there. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Their dining room table just shattered into 1,000 pieces. Like I was just like, so things happen. I love all this. We should do a whole behind the scenes podcast because there's so many great stories.